Hello everyone and welcome back to Superboy Beyond, and we are returning to Bride of Bizarro. We did part 1 last week. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. We are now going to get into part 2, and obviously you know the drill by this point. You know we'll count you with 3, 2, 1 play and all that jazz, so let's just get into it.
Well, all right? I think this time, since it's a Bizarro episode, we should do Bizarro speak to count them in.
What, and just 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3?
No.
The other way around, rather.
Well, we'll do 1, 2, 3 and then stop instead of play.
Okay. Let's go then. Bride of Bizarro Part 2 in 1, 2, 3, stop. Here we are.
Rocketed from a distant planet to a bold new destiny on Earth. Found by a Kansas family.
It's been a little while since I've seen part 2, but I'm fairly sure, as I mentioned in last week's episode, part 2 is the one where there's a few scenes where Gerard's Superboy hair is just very strange. I don't think it appears the same way in any other episode of the show.
Yep.
It's even different to what it appeared as in part 1 of Bride of Bizarro, so it's kind of a weird thing. But then we know with television, stuff gets shot out of order, so maybe that was the first thing they shot for this season. Who knows?
And I should have pointed this out, when we were watching the first part last week. That moment where you see just somebody in a Superboy costume running through the hallway, you don't see their head, and he's just flinging people aside. You assume at first that it might be Superboy, even though we already know the title of the episode is Bride of Bizarro. Yeah. But there are moments where you can see Douglas's hands, and they're bright white.
Yeah. That's one of the first clues. Plus the fact that, for people that saw Bizarro's earlier appearance, it's using the same music. Bizarro has a theme which is very similar to the Kryptonite theme. I guess it's just the Danger theme from Superboy because it gets reused a lot. But just the fact that you've got that music playing in the background is a pretty good clue that it's Bizarro. Either that, or maybe it's red kryptonite infected Superboy or something. You could probably get away with the same music there. I know they had a very slightly different version of it in Super Menace, but would have been close enough, I'm not sure now, seeing her cheeks just there, whether they are any pointier than regular Bizarros. I think it might just be the lighting. Probably would have made more sense just to reuse the same mask, just stick a different wig on.
Yeah, probably. And I'm sure they did the same thing with Bizarro Lana.
Yeah. That Bizarro makeup design, though, I still just can't get over how good it looks. Just like the angles are so straight, like they're perfect. And considering it's probably made out of like a rubbery sort of latex or a silicone type thing, the fact that those lines are so straight, they did a great job with the sculpt on those things.
Yeah, and one thing we should also note, these 2 episodes, this is the first time that Tracy's name appears in the beginning, credits.
Shouldn't have taken this long. She should have started getting her name during the intro credits or whatever. Or at least the post-intro credits.
Yeah.
Way back in season 2. At the very least, by Superboy's Deadly Touch, she should have been listed in the openings. Because let's face it, she was almost every single scene that Lex is in, she's in too. So if Lex is in that bit, Darla should too, because he's the one she's talking to in all those scenes. okay, Lex Luthor is a more legacy character with a bigger history, but still.
I love that. Lex says, it's a mixed blessing.
But yeah, this, I believe, is the scene where you can tell in some moments that Gerard's hair is kind of strange. Well, not strange. It's just, it doesn't look like any other episode of the show.
Yep. And I mean, this sequence right here where Darla is arguing with him, you know, I get his point that he wants to watch Superboy get his ass handed to him. But she points it out. If Superboy dies, you die. If Superboy lives, you're going to jail.
Yeah. At the very least, you know, Lex should have planned ahead and maybe left a camera or something so he could watch from a distance. I wouldn't have put that past the greatest criminal mind. Like, he probably would have a hidden camera so he can keep an eye on his lair. Like he did when he was watching Superman try to get to him in Superman the movie, where he's watching him get frozen and all of that.
Yeah.
I like this set as well with the slightly flooded hallway. Even though you can tell they've literally just put a load of bin liners on the floor and taped them together and filled them with water. It's a good way to do it, though. It is amazing, really.
Yeah, it just
considering how stupid Lex thinks Darla is. It's amazing how often she's the one that gives him the solution.
Yeah, remember, he's very book smart, you know. But, you know, like Khan from Star Trek, what was it that Spock said about Khan? He suffers from two-dimensional thinking. Same thing with Lex. He doesn't think three-dimensionally.
Mm.
And it takes somebody with street smarts to point out, well, why don't you get somebody who's in love with Superboy?
Mm. And it's funny, part one, you know, when she was asking about the pigeons, the homing pigeons, all he had to say was birds of a feather and she got the rest. Like, she's smart, you know, she is very bright. If Lex wasn't such a garbage person, you know, maybe he would recognize that. But yeah.
Well, you know, he's a garbage person, but he's also arrogant to a point where
that's just part of it, isn't it?
But you know, there are arrogant people who are not garbage people. He's garbage in the way he treats people, but he's also arrogant in thinking, I'm the smartest man around. Yeah, maybe you can build stuff and maybe you can design stuff, but you don't think around you. It's why Superman has always been able to defeat Lex, because Lex looks at him as a muscle-bound moron.
Yeah. He always underestimates him.
Yeah.
And overestimates his own abilities. No, he is the smartest man on Earth in the DC universe, I think. But he's still not quite as smart as he thinks.
Yeah, and remember, Brainiac is far smarter than him.
Yeah, which is why it's always an interesting idea when they join forces, you know. Like in Whatever Happens to the Man of Tomorrow, where Brainiac is briefly in control of Lex. But it's a shame they didn't do a little bit more with that, because their intelligences combined would be seriously formidable.
And now we've got the bar set, which we will see again in episodes. And it feels, again, lived in. You know, it feels like it's a real bar. It's not like, you know, oh, we need to have a couple of guys sitting at the door. No, they've got a whole crowd.
And I've got to say, I always like that Lex hacks into the local television to give his like threatening warnings to Capital City or to Schuster or whatever. It's just a really fun little thing. It always reminds me of the it's called it's referred to as the Max Headroom incident, where like there was I think it was an episode of Doctor Who that was being broadcast, but somebody hacked into the TV signal and it was just Max Headroom spanking someone. They never found out who did it, but it's just it always reminds.
I still say it was Matt Frewer.
Oh, man, that would be hilarious if it turned out it actually was Max Headroom doing it. Yeah, I think it's part of the video. It's just Max Headroom spanking someone with a spatula. It's just the weirdest thing. But yeah, Lex always reminds me a little bit of that incident, you know. And the Cellar Tavern that's just there behind Lana, obviously that's the same bar that Clark was in earlier, I'm guessing, because how many sets could they have for bars? But I do wonder if that was the same bar set they used in Standoff.
I think it probably was.
It looks like the same set. It's probably just, a bar set that's on the the Universal lot or something.
I still say the people's reaction to what Lex is doing is really over the top.
I don't know. I mean, he's making a bunch of flying bombs that could just land anywhere and destroy a building.
Yeah, but he's saying that he's going to point the duplicator ray at a satellite in space, and it's going to cause TVs to explode. Does Lex not know how satellites work?
I guess they work differently in this universe, in the DC universe. I don't know. It would almost be scarier if his plan was to make a duplicate of Earth or something. That way you would have just a copy of Earth right next to it. And like one of them is about to explode, which would definitely take out the other. That could have been a really dangerous thing. But I guess that's more of the suicidal tendency of Lex that comes a bit later in No Line Enemy. So it would have been a bit too early for that now.
Yeah.
Still,
I think at this point, Lex, and this is just my headcanon, Lex is doing the things that he's doing because, he's unconsciously creating an elaborate plan that he knows there is a flaw in it that he knows that Superboy is going to stop. That's my headcanon. He's doing it purposely because if he succeeds and he kills Superboy, he's got no
plan after that.
Yeah, no motivation to do anything.
I mean, after that, I suppose there's no one really to stop him. So if he wanted, just as he says in Mind Games, if he really wants to be king for a day, if Superboy is not around, he could probably be king for the rest of his life, because I don't know that the army would be able to really stop Lex Luthor, because he definitely is too smart for them, it seems, within the context of this show.
Yeah.
So I guess it's part of the thing. It's the same thing with the Joker, why he would never kill Batman. It's just two sides of the same coin almost.
Heath Ledger said it best. I don't want to kill you. I want to continue having fun with you.
Yeah. But then it is just very much a comic book trope. All these characters that say they want to kill other characters, but then are given ample opportunities and don't take it for some reason. Batman versus Superman. First thing when they start that fight, Superman arrives and gets shot with those miniguns, turret things that come out of the ground. They're not kryptonite bullets, though. If Batman actually wanted to kill Superman, they would have been kryptonite bullets and there wouldn't have even been a fight. What's the point in having guns that just shoot regular bullets when they do fuck all to Superman? It's just a waste of time.
And of course, now we know that Lex has figured out the way to make duplicates permanent.
Also, he thinks, obviously, in season 4, we find out it's not quite as permanent as we hope. I do like the stylish lighting on Bizarro in season 3. I mean, it was pretty stylish in season 2, but it was a lot of just daylight shots. Bizarro's design, though, just looks so much better in just moody lighting with just a strong side light to really highlight all those angles.
Yeah, it makes it more menacing.
Absolutely. And yet you can still tell the majority of the time that Bizarro isn't a bad guy. Like this shot here, like Barry Myers really does inject so much humanity into Bizarro. You can tell he's not a out and out villain.
He's just, as you pointed out to your sister that one time, he's stupid.
Yeah, he's stupid. He's easily led. You know, it's very easy to trick Bizarro, apparently. Although, who knows? Maybe if season 5 came along, it would be slightly harder because he is learning as he goes. And I have to imagine there's some remnant of what he learned in To Be Human that remained. It can't all have just been part of the physical transformation, surely. They even ended that episode saying that they were going to pick up their lessons again. So presumably by season 5, Bizarro would be quite a bit smarter.
And I like how Clark is using the duplication ray to track Lex down. Which we know that Lex was planning on.
And again, with Lex's lair here, I love that giant gun that Darla was just playing with. They've got some really cool props in this episode and just really good moments in general. But that giant gun thing that that Darla was using, I know it's probably supposed to be the duplication ray, but I'm sure it's quite a bit bigger than the one in season 2. I just think it looks very good.
I definitely think Lex probably made some modifications to it, once he stole it.
Yeah, he probably just, he needed to boost the signal or something because he's certainly shooting it a lot further in this episode than it was designed for.
It's interesting that what we know later, Lex's statement about hating family reunions is not so true.
Yeah, but then, we know that Lex is a liar. Okay, that makeup on the Lana version is definitely softer than the Darla one was. So I guess maybe they did have multiple masks. I do always like how the Bizarro hair is just like a extremely messy version of the actual haircuts. Like even the Bizarro Lana has basically the season 3 Lana haircut, but just nowhere near as well done. It's like a wig that's been hastily cut to look vaguely the same shape, but with just none of the care and attention. If that makes sense. I do think the green skin that they've got on, like the green effect they've got on Gerard's skin there, is better done than it was earlier in the episode as well. I do think it is just a matter of it looks better in daylight. Just hides those edges a little bit better. I don't even know who Squeaky From is, to be honest.
She was a member of the Manson family.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And she apparently attempted to assassinate President Gerald Ford.
Huh. That is definitely a reference that Luther would make, that's for sure. Honestly, I'm amazed that Lex never tried to start a cult in any episode of the show. It seems like the sort of thing that a very intelligent and charismatic guy. When did he have a cult?
Road's Not Taken.
Oh yeah, I suppose, yeah. In that, he basically had to play on the whole second coming thing. Okay, and yeah, those Bizarro Lex masks as well are definitely very different. Like, they just literally look like masks of Sherman Howard. They're not even angular. Maybe they ran out of time. They didn't have a chance to put quite as many straight lines in it.
It's funny how neither Lex nor Darla remembered to treat them with the Bizarro K.
There was a lot going on, And as you said earlier, Lex isn't quite as smart as he likes to think. Oh, and there's Bizarro wearing John Newton's outfit. Always fun to spot when they have the season 1 suit. Not the greatest takeoff, but oh well.
Well, it's Bizarro. He's not exactly, an expert.
Yeah, he doesn't get to fly quite as often as Gerard did. Yeah, I do like that end shot though, with them just standing on top of the rubble, and it's just the sky behind them. It's just another very cinematic looking shot.
Yeah.
So that was Bride of Bizarro Part 2. Very good episode in my opinion. I'm not sure if I prefer it over the first Bizarro 2-parter. I think it's one of those episodes that really completely depends on my mood.
I would say, there are things about this one that are better than the first Bizarro 2-parter.
I think it's much better. It's much, the direction is just better. I think the cinematography is better. Yeah. I'm not sure if I prefer the story though. That's the thing.
But
it's very easily resolved at the end as well. It's kind of just one of those sort of love won the day kind of thing. But it was well executed,
Yeah, and I mean the way Sherman Howard plays Lex here, he's at his manipulative best.
And Darla's very good in it as well.
Yeah, I mean Darla is. I mean Tracy plays Darla so well. I mean at this point, I think she really knew exactly who the character was and where she wanted to go with her.
I mean, let's face it, her best episode is still yet to come. That won't come until season 4 with Darla Goes Ballistic. But you can tell that in terms of finding the character and the way she wants to play it, she knows exactly who Darla is at this point. I think she actually, she found the character very quickly, in fact. I think even halfway through her appearances in the second season, I think she pretty much found it. I think the only thing that was still yet to come with Darla was establishing a little bit more of her dress sense and her hairstyles, because obviously that's when they went full bleach blonde, like literally just white wigs all the time. Her outfits were always a little bit over the top in season 2, but in season 3 they really get taken up a notch. Like, it's very heightened.
Well, I mean, her first appearance in the second part of the story, in season 2, the season opener, she's an exotic dancer. So
you can see that's where her dress sense comes from. But it's almost fun how now that she's not an exotic dancer, some of her outfits, they are almost, it feels like the same coin as Eve Teschmacher, but it's almost like where Teschmacher purposely wears the skimpiest outfits possible, Darla almost wears more than necessary at times. Like, she's in her hideout, yet she's dressed up like she's going out for an expensive dinner with this like dark feather, like fluffy thing all over her shoulders and all of this, and it's just
in many ways, the outfits she's wearing are more conservative than
much more conservative than Teschmacher, that's for sure.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is more conservative than what she originally was. It's almost like she's not dressing the way she used to be. She's like, oh, I have money now. I can wear anything I want, but I'm going to dress to hide the fact that I was a stripper.
Yeah, she's dressed almost like she's dressed like what she thinks upper class looks like. She's not quite got there because it's kind of an imitation of, I mean, I guess you could say it's an imitation of class.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know, she doesn't come from money. This is kind of a new change in circumstances for her. And even now, she's living in an abandoned warehouse, it looks like. You know, she's not quite reached that point, but she's dressed for success, I guess you could say. And I really like how her outfits are both, as you say, they're slightly more conservative, but at the same time, they're also way more over the top and stylized than they were before. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It's very much Darla. It's very much the character. You certainly couldn't even dress a character like Teschmacher in that way. I don't know if any other Lex love interest, but Darla could really pull that off. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth praising for, you know, the production designers and the costume designers on the show. They clearly did put some real thought into Darla's outfits.
And I'm sure that Tracy kind of had a little say in it, because she's going to be wearing these outfits, and she's like, no, I don't think she'd wear this. She'd definitely wear this, not this, but this.
I hope she got some input on it, because yeah, I mean, you know, even if she didn't, and it was just completely the choices of the costume department and all of that, you know that whoever it was, though, was very good at their job, because those are the exact outfits that character would wear.
Yeah.
Like, the personality matches the dress sense absolutely perfectly. If it was partly Tracy, it would make sense, though, because if anybody would have that deep understanding of the character by this point, it's her. Yeah. I think that's basically it for this episode. Do you want to give it a rating?
Yeah, I would say this is probably as close to an 8 as we're going to get for season 3.
I don't know. Season 3 has probably more great episodes than any other season.
Well, it's close to an 8, so if not an 8 itself.
Yeah, I would say 7.75 to an 8.
Yeah, I would say 7.75. You know, it has its few wonky moments, as we've pointed out. You know, and we're talking about both parts, not just one.
Yeah, this is the combo for the entire story.
Yeah, so it's definitely a 7.75 here. You're pointing out the little lacks that we have with the compositing of the green over his skin.
Yeah, but I mean, even things like that, that's not really what's dropping the score for me. It's just there are little bits and pieces here and there that I'm not sure are entirely necessary sometimes. I think also the solution was kind of done with very quickly. It was very rushed, you know. I almost would have liked to have had a scene earlier on where you actually see Lex making duplicates of himself, and you could just have Darla say, like, why are you making all of these Bizarro Lexes? And he's just like, it's an insurance policy or something like that, you know. It could just be like, this is Lex, this is his plan B. That could have been fun. Just purely because we have a lot of very samey scenes throughout parts 1 and 2. And I don't know if you needed all of those scenes, because let's face it, how many times did just Bizarro go to the warehouse, Bizarro leaves the warehouse, Bizarro comes back to the warehouse, Bizarro leaves the warehouse, Bizarro and Superboy come to the warehouse, and it's just back and forth.
Yeah.
Could you not have just maybe cut a little bit out and just skip to the third time or something. I'm not sure it was quite necessary to have quite so many steps. It feels like it could have been tightened up a little bit.
Yeah, and definitely, you're pointing out that scene that could have made it better. I mean, that's a double-edged sword, because yes,
it wouldn't have needed to be something big. I just think something setting up that maybe Lex had an idea in his head. I may need a plan B for this, so he could start just a little reference to the idea that Lex is coming up with something in the background. He doesn't need to say what, even just so we have an idea that Lex is considering something else.
I do think though that they got one thing wrong about the Bizarro duplicates, which is Bizarro as a duplicate was around for at least a day before he started sizzling and smoking.
That is true. And the Lex duplicates basically
she exploded within a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and all those Lex ones were literally within like a minute or two.
So maybe they were created, hours earlier.
Yeah. And so having that scene where Lex is saying, I think I might need a plan B, might just have set up that maybe after he did that and we cut back to Superboy, maybe that's just what Lex was doing in the background, but we didn't see it. Just something to give us a little bit of an idea that he's working on something else in the background.
Yeah, and maybe show him working on creating the Bizarro kryptonite.
Yeah.
Which he would need.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny as well because Bizarro often has opposite reactions to things. Like in the comics, especially, like he'll confuse love for hate and stuff like that when he's speaking. I don't know, it could have been fun, like if maybe Lex's first plan with like maybe the Bizarro homing pigeons didn't work. Like he could be like, well, okay, I made a bunch of Bizarro homing pigeons and let them go, and they buggered off and never came back because I guess Bizarro homing pigeons never come home. And you could have just had like a really funny little twist where he just didn't quite consider that Bizarro homing pigeons would have different behavior. And instead of coming back, he never sees them again. That could have just been a really fun. I don't know. There's just a ton of different places you could take Bizarro storylines.
Yeah.
If you just wanted to keep it interesting.
Because
this is also the first time Lex has really used Bizarro technology stuff, He wouldn't necessarily know all of the rules because I certainly doubt that Peterson would have published his notes anywhere, I guess Lex still gone.
Yeah, unless Clark, when he was writing for the Schuster Herald, wrote exactly what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Superman / Clark is a little bit naive. It's the Superman the movie thing. Why would you tell Lois Lane your only weaknesses? So she can publish them in a newspaper article. It doesn't make the most sense, but it's just that's Clark / Superman giving humanity the benefit of the doubt, I guess, in that moment. It's just one of those things.
And just showing that he's trying to show that I'm trustworthy. I'm telling you everything about me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it backfires, but yeah.
Yeah, so
also,
definitely 7.75 on this.
Yeah, 7.75 seems about fair. I do think also you could explain away how Lex knows about the Bizarro, the rules of the Bizarro, like the beam or whatever it's called, the Bizarro laser gun or whatever. Just purely because I suppose the internet kind of exists. We already had Ferris Bueller on screen at this point hack into his school to change his number of absences. So I guess Lex could just hack into Peterson's lab and steal his notes. There's a ton of ways Lex
either that or knowing Peterson kept notebooks, as we've seen from the episode Metallo from season 2. Clark maybe had Peterson's notebook on kryptonite.
Yeah, maybe Lex and Darla just stole a few notes at one point between episodes. Who knows?
Or maybe they took the notebook when they took the duplicator.
Yeah, maybe the notebook was kept with the duplicator ray. So yeah, we'll take the gun itself and we'll take all the documentation that's very handily kept with it.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. Anyway, 7.75. I think that's about fair for this episode. It's a very good one, but it's not the best of season 3. That's still to come. We'll see you all soon.
Viacom.